Hey everybody, Ryan Molly here, and you are not going to want to miss this episode. I have an amazing individual. He's super cool, super fun, super athletic, and super successful. Entrepreneur, very young, but I will tell you, I'm super impressed with everything that he's done with himself, both professionally and personally. He has a great head on his shoulders, comes from a great family. Italian immigrants, I can feel for that myself. Anthony Santoro. So he is the owner, operator of the Bomb Shelter, which is an indoor baseball training facility here in Erie, Pennsylvania. If your kids, play baseball, softball, anything like that, you're definitely going to want to get on his schedule to at least come in, check it out. But if nothing else, hear his story, hear his passion, and how he treats all of his clients and how he approaches life on a day-to-day basis. It's a great story. It's a great just passion that he shares and that I share. And we're definitely looking forward to sharing his story and just that banter back and forth between himself and myself. And again, you're always going to watch the Sawbones Challenge at the end. So stay tuned. We'll catch up with you soon. Have a great day.
All nurses to the nurses station.
Lawless country people are real close family. Lately, some of my kinfolk don't get around too good, you see. When that doctor asked them, son, how'd you get in this condition? They says, hey, Sawbones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. Wanna know, Doc, why do you think I got some pain in my joints from years of playing hard in this life that's too short? When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I says, hey, Sawbones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. Tell me all about it, Doc.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hey Sawbones, my story, my passion. I'm Dr. Ryan Molly, your host, cutter of bones, orthopedic surgeon, entrepreneur, business owner, most importantly, loving husband, father of three very, very, very busy boys that keep me on my toes. And I'm so excited to record this episode and share this host with you, or this guest with you this evening. He is a up and coming legend here in the Erie, Pennsylvania area. We got another baseball episode for you guys out there. So one that just aired literally earlier today was Joe Spano, the head Mercyhurst baseball coach from Mercyhurst University. And we've got another great one tonight. So this guy has a tremendous track record, very entrepreneurial at a very young age. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, both personally and professionally. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know him better. Just kind of what makes him energized and gets him going every day, and just sharing kind of the back and forth camaraderie that we do. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce and welcome Mr. Anthony Santoro.
Thank you for
What's up,
having
buddy?
me.
How are you?
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Welcome aboard. So
Thank you. I'm excited.
as we kind of always start these out, I like to hear a little bit about you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know a little bit about you. You're from the Syracuse area, right? You went to high school in Syracuse. You then went to Canisius. I think you were there for a year playing ball. Then went to, was it Monroe
Yep.
Community College for a couple
Yep.
years from 2013-ish to
Yep.
16.
Yep.
And then transferred to Youngstown State.
Yep.
Finished up playing there. You played there from 16 to 18.
Yep.
And then you had a short run as like a, hey, do you really want to be a collegiate coach? And then to Mercyhurst.
Yeah.
And then the Bomb Shelter, which we'll get into some of those details. But tell us about like where you came from, kind of your roots, who influenced you and brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I'm from the inner city of Syracuse, so baseball wasn't always the most popular sport. A lot of my buddies played, or a lot, not so much buddies, but a lot of the guys that I was around that were in the neighborhood played football and basketball and things of that nature. And baseball was introduced to me at a very early age by my father, who never really played a ton of sports growing up. He came from an immigrant family. They came over from Sicily, so. We, like I said, were just introduced to baseball very early, immediately fell in love with it from T-ball all the way until literally about a half hour ago. So I mean, baseball's been a huge part of my life. My family's been a huge part of my life. I anything that I have to this day, I credit to ultimately my grandparents who came over here with literally nothing, just for work, came here from Sicily and the 50s, just literally to find a job, to find something, to do. Just any bit of hard work or, anything that I have in my body comes, originally, from them. Obviously my parents, things of that nature, but those two people, those two individuals I look up to, they're not with us anymore, but I look up to them every single day, but yeah, from Syracuse, and then, literally bounced. I always like to joke, I bounced up and down the thruway, I-90. Spent time in Syracuse, obviously, Rochester at Monroe Community College, Buffalo at Canisius. Made my way to Youngstown State University, finished up there. And then all roads lead back to Erie.
Yeah, well, I can say the same thing with myself because all roads do end up leading back to Erie, and it's kind of amazing that I was able to get my wife to come here from Metro Detroit. So, your dad, was he born here or was he born in Sicily?
My dad was born here. But like I said, sports have always been a big part of his life. But it wasn't necessarily that he wasn't allowed to play sports or anything along those lines. It was known at a very early age that, you were going to work. And there was money that needed to be made, and, you're going to provide for what is going to be your family down the road. And he was born here.
You're a young guy. I mean, we're quite a few decades apart. How old are you?
I just turned 28 yesterday.
Okay. Happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you.
So, but that being said, your parents, how old are they?
My dad is 58 and my mom is 57.
Okay. So that's not that much older than me. It's like, 13, 14 years older than me. But a little bit of a generational gap there. But you said your grandparents came over in like the 1950s. So right after World War II.
Yep.
And I would imagine they came in. Did they come in through Ellis Island? Or
they sure did.
And then they settled in the Syracuse area? Or how did that work out?
Yeah, settled in the Syracuse area. Initially, my grandfather came over and, basically recruited his brothers to come over, who ended up having a bakery. My grandfather worked at a casket company for years. I couldn't tell you how many years. Literally made such an impact on this casket company that at his funeral this past year, the owner of the casket company came over to our family and said, "Look, your grandfather would literally shine caskets until he could see his face in them." So it obviously doesn't get more blue collar than that. So it's I mean, they came over, and honestly, everything has just always been about work. And it's never, as much as we have always associated, our lives with work, but it's never always been about money. It was never like that. It was just you work and your family is your family and you take care of them.
You provide.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
And I think that's probably one of the things that really kind of like drew me towards you is I think of myself and my parents and my grandfather and my grandmother on both sides as having tremendous work ethic and almost insatiable that was passed down to my parents and then ultimately to my sisters and myself. And I see the same characteristics and qualities in yourself. And to me, it's one of those things, and I don't bash like generations, but like it's pretty rare for someone your age to be as successful as early on as you in an entrepreneurial field. And kudos to you, because I honestly think I can feel it. It's coming from your parents and from your grandparents' influence that it just, you've got that hunger, you've got that drive.
Yeah, they've never. It was always like, I feel like growing up, it was always, you know, we're gonna play it like we're gonna work on 9 to 5s. We're gonna play it safe because when we came here, the 9 to 5 was plenty. You know what I mean? The 9 to 5 was plenty. You know, we could raise the family off the garden in the backyard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then, you know, as I saw them, you know, as I'm seeing them and as I'm growing up, I'm like, yeah, the 9 to 5 is amazing. We had an amazing childhood. We never went without. You know what I mean? But nobody ever made $1 million, you know, by any means.
Yeah.
But we had what we needed. We had our family, you know, which was huge for us. And, you know, sometimes with family, it goes unappreciated at times. You argue, you bicker, you know, things of that nature. But, I mean, it was never, I never in a million years thought, number one, that I would leave Syracuse to go to school, which I did. My grandmother, I think she probably, God rest her soul, hates me for still to this day. That was probably, I actually think I remember her calling me stupid for leaving to go to school because she thought that you just immediately needed to go to work, right? You know, but never in a million years did I think that I would end up having a business or being in business on my own or, you know, doing anything along those lines. But I don't think they realized they installed that in me and our entire family, you know, at such an early age.
How many siblings in your family?
So I have 3 other siblings. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I know you. I've met Nick.
Yep.
Who else am I missing?
There's twins, Dominic and Francesca. They're 20.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and Nick is number 2?
Nick's number 2. Yep.
Gotcha.
Nick is number 2.
So, you know, the other thing I always ask my guests are, and we were chatting about this a little bit before we started, but like, do you remember the first time that we met?
Honestly, not. I feel like it had to have been through a baseball-related experience, whether it be
It's probably my wife.
Steelheads, Bomb Shelter.
Probably introduced us, like
Probably, yeah.
right?
Probably.
Because she does all the dirty work, the leg work to
I
get
think that it had
the
to
boys
be
signed
through,
up for stuff.
Yeah, it had to be through private training with the boys at the bomb shelter.
I think that actually was,
Yeah.
you know, before you had Bomb Shelter 2 is the newer one, right?
Yep.
She was like, hey, I really want you to meet this young guy. He's very entrepreneurial. That is what it was. Cause she was just like, I talk about you and Travis to him. And I think that you guys would really hit it off. And I was like, who's this young 20-some-year-old? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely what it was. We had the boys in and Karen was like unbelievable. And even though you guys had been here and I had been here too, Karen was like, you know, you should use this for this, or you should use this for this. She's
just really good with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So that was a huge help. And then just the whole networking tool. Like one of the biggest things for me in life is networking. I will sit down and talk to anybody that listens to this and knows me will know that I will talk to somebody that is as young as kids that I train or somebody at the gym in the morning time that's 80 years old. You know, I'm willing to pick anybody's brain. I think everybody brings value to the table in terms of what, and you learn everything. I mean, I train some kids as young as 7 or 8 years old, and you learn whether it be a new drill or something along those lines that you come up with little guys, or you know, a 75-year-old guy who's at the gym and he's telling you this, you need to do this, this, and this to be successful. Whatever the case might be, everybody, you know, has something to offer,
something to add, some value add, and
Always.
The fact that you're willing to have those conversations just demonstrates your passion for what you
always.
do and
Always.
and kind of like the business that you've created and who you are.
Always. You're never too good to talk to anybody. And you never, one of the quotes that I would always be like, okay, dad, was, you never know who's watching, right? That was one of the quotes. It's a corny quote that I'm sure that everybody has heard, but like I literally to this day, he's going to laugh when he hears this, but I think about that all the time. Like you really never know who you're talking to. You never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. You never know who you're associating yourself with. And that's something that sticks with me every single day. It may sound cheesy, but it's so true.
It doesn't sound cheesy to me at all. Anytime that I'm ready to make a decision in my life, whether it's a simple decision or whether it's a risky decision, I always think about like my grandparents and like, what would they be proud of this decision? And, you know, we've all made many, many failures. And I'm the first to admit I've made hundreds, if not thousands of failures in my life.
Sure.
But every time that I make that decision, I always kind of reflect on like, hey, with my grandma and my grandpa and my parents, would they approve of this? And sometimes no, they
Right.
wouldn't. But then you learn from that and you decide like, hey, I'm not going to do that again. Right.
Right.
Or I'm going to shift gears and change and modify. But like, that's the beauty of life is like you live, you learn, and you get better and you get stronger from
Right.
each of those decisions.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that quote is just, it can go in so many different directions. Like I said, you never know who's watching, you never know who's listening, anything along those lines. But ultimately, to me, after thinking about it every single day, because it was branded in my head after every baseball game I've ever played or any, whatever sport that I might have been playing was, there's just so many things that can come from that. And I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's one of those things that's always stuck with me. And like I said, I don't think that entrepreneurship or owning a business or doing anything along these lines was ever anything that anybody in our family was trying to install in us as we grew up. But I don't think just the passion that they had and coming over here, it's almost like you are an entrepreneur. You leave a country to go to another country just for work.
Yeah.
And at the time you're talking pennies.
Inherently entrepreneurial.
Exactly.
It
It's
may not be
unbelievable.
what you and I would classically describe as like, hey, started a business, started this, but the risk that they took
Was so
like,
much bigger.
My grandfather coming
Oh my
over, never
gosh.
seeing his parents again, only seeing his brother again when he came
Yeah.
over 15, 20 years later. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, props to them. They were trying to make a better life, not only for themselves, but for their families.
Yeah, to me, that exactly what you just said is so much bigger than saying, or somebody coming to you and saying, "Hey, I want $50,000 for 10% equity." $50,000 is nothing compared to picking up everything that you've ever known for your entire life in a completely different country and coming up. I mean, what we do as entrepreneurs, yes, it's to benefit us, monetarily, but what they did is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I think about it every single day. I have a picture of my grandfather working on a casket next to my bed on my nightstand. Then I have another picture.
That's a little morbid, but
It's unbelievable. It is. It's unbelievable. Then the other picture that I have is a perfect attendance award of his that was given to him by the company. And you look at something like that, and again, it sounds corny, but when you saw that man every single day, what he was willing to do, and you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh man, I got to go train these kids for a living.
yeah, and he's making caskets.
That's what I'm saying. And this, you're like, I got to go train kids for a living. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Well, it could be worse. You could have to go and clean a casket for somebody to die. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable. Just the little stuff like that. You just don't, I think about it all the time. I don't necessarily always come out and talk to people about it all the time. But
Well, I can
Yeah.
tell you, I've already learned so much
Mhm.
just in this first little segment. So,
yeah,
we always, at this point, we kind of do a beverage break. So we did it a little differently today because we kind of broke tradition. We actually came out of the gates with beverages. So for the viewers out there, it's a little later than normal. So I'm off this week. I'm on vacation. I'm normally in bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock at the latest.
opposite schedules.
Anthony was at the bomb shelter training kids until 10 p.m. tonight. He didn't get here until probably 10:20ish.
Yeah.
I'm usually 2 or 3 hours into REM sleep at this point. And, the fact that I don't have to work tomorrow, I'll have surgery tomorrow, like, and we don't get this opportunity to connect. Like, we've been trying for a couple of weeks to get you on.
Right.
So I'm glad you came over. I'm glad we're up late, but we started out of the gates with a cocktail. So we didn't
did.
have to wait.
We
So
did.
salute.
Very good. Salud.
So we're going to shift gears. All right. We're going to go into the Q&A session. So what we're going to do is you're going to ask me 6 questions, 3 business and then 3 personal. Okay. We'll then roll reverse. I'll ask you 3 business, 3 personal. Good news is that you can veto one of those questions if you don't like it.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it bad news, but I'll just give you the facts. This is episode 8 or 9, and not one person has vetoed one question yet. So no pressure.
I think we'll be
But-
okay.
So fire away.
Let's do it.
But do business first.
I said that I told you that I wouldn't use my phone. But these questions, I thought these questions through. I want to open up. I want to take a look at these. I want to show you. So the business questions.
He's reading the questions off his phone. He's cheating.
So the first business question I have is, how do you stay on top of so as somebody who, as everybody already knows, or not already knows, but a lot of people know that watch us and know you, they know you as, somebody who is not only an orthopedic surgeon, but someone who is also an entrepreneur and has a couple different things going on. How do you stay on top of the different medical trends, while being an entrepreneur and, while doing all these different things and things of that nature?
So, I think first and foremost, I'm very, very proud of being a lifelong student. I joke all the time that I say, hey, I'm an educator first and foremost. My father was a teacher in Meadville for 31 years. My 3 older sisters are all teachers to some capacity. My wife, Karen, who is a teacher. My aunts were teachers. My uncles were teachers. So I'm first and foremost a teacher, but I'm also a very avid student. So I'm constantly going to courses. I'm constantly reading journals every single month. And I'm staying on top of like, what's the latest and greatest, right?
Right.
I never want to be the first guy doing anything, but I also don't want to ever be the last guy doing anything either.
Right.
Right. So I'm usually maybe the third or fourth guy doing something. Like I'm a very early adopter of whether it's surgical techniques or this or that, but I got to make sure that it's tried and true and proven.
Right.
But I'm definitely not like the last couple guys doing it. Like if something is not working, I'm making sure that I'm getting off that ship.
Yeah, that's neat because I always find myself, as I have my hands in a couple different things, and I always feel spread thin, but I always, I tell myself like it always could be worse, right? So it's okay to be spread thin sometimes. So I always wonder how other successful entrepreneurs or other successful business owners, or just even if you're not a business owner, somebody that has their hands in a couple different things, how you stay, how you continue to have the ability to, balance.
Yeah. To me, it's like prioritizing, right? So you like, I'm not it's funny. I have these flashbacks of different people sitting in this seat. And immediately when you said that, Brandy Sheets, who was my right hand go-to person for many, many years at Whole Health. And I really, really respect her for her ability to multitask. And I said, I'm not a good multitasker. She goes, I disagree. You're doing so many different things. I was like, yeah, I've got a lot of projects that I'm working on simultaneously, but I only work, and yes, they're all going on simultaneously. But when I'm working on one, whether it's surgery, I'm 100% focused on that. Right. And then when I'm working on this project, which may be an hour later, I'm 100% focused on that project. So I don't have the ability to like give different projects my energy at the same time,
right?
Which to me means simultaneous, but I do have the ability, and I do my best work when I have a lot going on, kind of like yourself. Like I'm better when I'm busy.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. Okay. All right. Number 2 from the phone. What are your biggest? See, it's kind of a loaded question because there's so many different things that can go wrong, whether it be, well, hopefully not, but the operating room. I mean, there is, but what are your biggest fears as a business owner? What are your biggest fears as a surgeon? What are your biggest fears as somebody who took it upon themselves to go into business for yourself or go into, private practice or, things of that nature? What are your biggest fears?
Easy question for me to answer. It's failure and disappointment. From day one, when I was a kid, the biggest fears that kind of drove me to do what I did and how I did it were disappointing my parents, my siblings, my friends, my grandparents, whether it was failure or not doing it exactly. And that's a tough burden to live with. Yeah. And I would say it is definitely one of the strongest like motivating factors in my life.
Right.
But it's like a blessing and a curse. So when those occur, which they do, right? Let's be honest with one another. If you're not failing, you're not trying. And if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. Right. And I try a lot of things and I throw a lot of mud against the wall. Some of it sticks, some of it doesn't. But to me, that fear of failure or disappointing someone, whether it's a patient, whether it's a colleague, whether it's a staff member, one of my employees, my wife, my kids, it is gut wrenching to me. And, I've tried to kind of rein my expectations in with that. But at the same time, I do believe that fear of failure or disappointment is one of the critical factors that has made me so successful because I put so much time and energy into assuring that I don't fail or
Right.
don't disappoint people. Again, it happens. It's inevitable, especially when you do, patient care and things like that. And when those things occur, I take it very personally, and that's honestly why it's so important to have a good support network around you. And to me, that's Karen, and that's the boys. I remember a specific incident several months ago was the hardest time in my entire professional career with a surgical procedure that I did that didn't go exactly as planned. And it was the scariest moment of my life in the operating room. One of the scariest moments of my life ever. And I came home, and I'm not afraid to admit that I wept like a baby in front of Karen, in front of the boys. And it was one of the most powerful moments of my entire career and in my life. And it really helped me to grow personally, professionally. It was a great moment. I didn't think at the time, but like my boys, I was like, gosh, I can't cry in front of them. I got to be tough. I got to be this. I got to be that. And they were so respectful and so mature that they like realized my pain at that moment.
Right.
And that I was doing my very best, and my very best wasn't good enough at that point. And they were very kind. They were very gentle. They were very loving. And, they kind of brought me through it. So
Yeah.
it was just one of those things that like you look back on and you're like, at the time it was horrible. Right. But looking back on it, it was probably one of the most, like real, genuine, authentic moments of my professional career.
Yeah.
And my career as a father with them, because
Right.
they got to see me being vulnerable and being very sensitive and just real.
Right. That's as I was typing that question on my phone, I'm trying to figure out, what am I going to ask? What am I going to say? Whatever. I'm answering these questions in my own head. I'm asking myself these questions, and that's exactly what I would. And I think that's any entrepreneur, or anybody that has, that solid support group, or something to fall back on when they go home, or what have you. I think it's funny that we say that though, because as entrepreneurs, like you said, it's inevitable. You're going to fail. As coaches, you're going to fail. I mean, we're going, this time of year, we're going through tryouts for, different, teams and different things of that nature for, some different families and, what have you. And not so much different families, but, families may be going to different organizations and, families who left the same organization may be going back and, different things of that nature. And, as I'm sitting, I'm talking to my brother about it. My brother gets very attached to the kids that he coaches, which he should. That's how we were raised. That's, you're attached to whatever you're working on at that moment. Right. And I said, you know what? I'm thinking in my head, like there is no way that you can possibly keep everybody happy.
No.
You are always going to fail, whether that be coaching or entrepreneurship or, anything along those lines. So, I'm asking you that question already knowing the answer, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not trying to compare what I do to what you and your brother do, but like I have a lot of patience, but like I look at each patient as one surgery, one episode, and I put all my time and energy into that. And then the next one, same thing. But like you've got, say, 12, 13 kids on a team. You've got personalities you have to deal with. You have personalities that you have to deal with. You have to try to keep that kid's mental and physical emotions in check and keep them in the game, so to speak, psychologically.
Sure.
And the same with the parents. Like I do not envy what you do at all, because it is a very, very, very
Right.
challenging job. And as parents though, and you'll find this out at some point, like you get to that point where you're like, my kid should be playing more. My kid should be this. My kid should be that. And then you sit back and like, whether it's umps, whether it's coaches, whether it's refs, whether it's whatever it may be, teachers, you're like, these guys and girls are doing the absolute best that they can with what they have. Like, cut them some slack, right?
Yeah.
And buy into what they're doing, because they're doing it with. I'm not saying that all coaches or teachers or this or that are great, but like I know you. I know your brother. I know your organization, and you guys give it everything you have. So
Yeah,
you have our support.
It's a challenge at times, because you want to say to people and family, when it's really, really easy to criticize whoever's in charge when things are going wrong, right? But the reality of the whole thing is that, you know, and I don't have kids right now, but as somebody would do anything and is super attached to their family, I can totally understand why, parents are not willing, but, parents are saying, okay, it's his fault because he didn't do this, this, and this. But, at times, I remember growing up and failing, and I think this is just how we were raised. Everything was it was tough. Our parents or grandparents, everybody was tough on us. We're being ridiculed for everything. It was just because there was so much struggle that went on before us. But, it seems that, at times there's a lack of looking in the mirror and saying, okay, my swing, my batting stance is not where it needs to be. Let's blame coach. But I think a lot of times people fail to realize, okay, well, if you worked on your swing and your batting stance 4 times a month, okay, name another thing that you can do 4 times a month and be good at it.
Yeah.
There's probably not many things that you can do.
Yeah, not
right?
many at all.
But it's way easier to, ridicule a coach or, anything along those lines. And that's one of the things that I like to challenge my athletes with. And that's why I'm not afraid to say it on this podcast. I will never sugarcoat anything with anybody.
Yeah.
You want your swing to get better, and you want to better yourself as anything, right? You have to do it every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to do it every day. I know we kind of got off track a little bit.
No.
But
It's a great off-track moment because I say that to my boys all the time, and they're guilty of this, right? They'll blame umps, they'll blame this, they'll blame that. And I'm like, listen, there's a reason you didn't get a hit in that game.
That's right.
Has nothing to do with your coach, has nothing to do with the ump. It has to do with you, right? And you could say, well, that was a ball, that was this, that was that. Well, you're holding the bat, okay? Swing it. And if you can swing it and not hit it, well, then you probably need to start swinging it more,
right.
Whether that's at the bomb shelter or in the backyard or this or that. So, and that goes across all walks of life, whether it's surgery, whether it's academics, whether it's no matter what you do, right? You can't expect to be good at it if you don't do it often, and you need to have focus while you're doing it. You need to have intention while you're doing it, right? It can't just be like lazy practice. Lazy practice doesn't end up going well. It needs to be focused. It needs to be deliberate. It needs to be intentional, right? You need to have a point, like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. When they practiced hard, they practiced often, and they always had a goal in mind. They weren't just going through the motions. If you just go through the motions, you're going to get mediocrity.
That's true in sports. That's true in business. That's true in just life in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, all right.
Third business.
Phone.
He's going to the phone again, folks.
What is the most gruesome thing that you've seen? I guess it's a little bit more funny. The most gruesome thing that you have seen on an operating table.
Oh gosh. I've seen lots of things throughout the years, whether it was orthopedic surgery, whether it was general surgery, whether it was, so I can get splashed in the face with blood, and I can get splashed in the face with bone dust on a daily basis, and that does not bother me at all. Smells really bother me. So it's like bowels. I could not be a general surgeon. I couldn't be an OB-GYN surgeon. Those types of things like infections where you're dealing with like pus and just nastiness. Quite honestly, some of the grossest things that I've ever experienced are just like the natural things, like a patient like loses their bowel control during the operation, and they have a bowel movement all over the table. Right. It's underneath the drapes, but I can smell it. I'm like, I got to get out of here. Yeah. Right. The other gross things that really gross me out, I'll tell you a good one, just like surgically, but when anesthesia like pulls the tube out of my patient's throats, I can't be in the room because there's like that slime that's like hanging from their mouth to the tube, and it's just like snot, and it's nasty. But this probably isn't like as gross to me, but like it would bother a lot of other people. There was a gentleman I remember when I was in Detroit. I was doing my trauma rotation at Detroit Receiving Hospital, and they called it the knife and gun club. Like they literally, the trauma that I was getting wasn't like, oh, I was skiing and I broke my femur going down the Black Diamonds, right? they got shot by a gang member or they got stabbed by an opposing gang member. And there was one individual, young, probably early 20s, that was brought in. He was shot 19 times in the chest and the arm by gang members and police officers. And we had to try to put his humerus back together, his upper arm bone on the left side. I remember the surgery. I mean, it was like Swiss cheese trying to put this thing back together. And again, not the grossest thing in the world, but I mean, he had bullet holes all through him. Guy survived, right? Because he was probably doing very, very bad things. Probably working a drug deal or something like that, and God just wasn't quite ready to take him. And he felt like his kids got some more life lessons to learn. But it was honestly just like one of those most challenging surgeries I've ever had to do. And my attendings, when you did these types of rotations, they would let you go. They're like, "Hey, it's yours. You if you need us, we're in the other room. You can come grab us." But like, I remember we worked on this guy, myself and another resident, for about 3 hours. We finally got it fixated, but we rounded on this guy for probably 3 weeks. He was the most unappreciative individual that I've ever treated. Never once said thank you. Always felt like, entitled and this and that. But like, it was pretty like eye-opening to see that other side of things, because what I do on a daily basis now is like elective hip and knee replacement surgery, where the people are thanking me before I even do the operation, whereas that was the other side of the coin. It doesn't mean that it's any less important, because these individuals need this care. It's critical access care. It's very important that they get it. It's a hard pill to swallow when you're doing something for somebody and you spend so much time to try to help them, and they're so unappreciative of it.
Sure.
But I don't know if I quite answered your question, but
No, that does.
yeah.
That does.
Personal? You don't need a phone for personal questions, do you?
I do, because I have good questions that I wrote down that I thought through, and I just want to make sure that I touch on everything.
Okay. Fire away.
This first one is something that I struggle with every single day. How do you balance your work life? I guess it could be, a business question as well, but how do you balance your personal life with your work life, with everything that you have going on, whether it be, just everything in general? How do you balance it?
So I'm not going to admit that I do an amazing job of it, but I'm getting way better at it as my career goes on. And again, I'm quite a bit older than you. I'm almost 45. I'll be 45 later this year. So early on, I will admit that I was very, very laser focused on my career, right? And probably to the detriment of my family, but I always tried when I got home to like flip that switch. I'm not the kind of guy that can have a 5-minute commute and be like, all right, home to surgery, home to the clinic, and vice versa, and be able to flip that switch that quickly. So for me, I drive 1 hour and 15 minutes to the hospital every single morning, one way, and then back. That's 2.5 hours that I'm in the car. And most people are like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? But for me, that is exactly what I need to be able to accomplish that. So on the way in, it's my time, right? I'll do audiobooks. I'll do podcasts. Sometimes I'll do music. Sometimes I'll just have quiet time and I'll just pray on my way to work. On my way home, before I get home, it's business. I'll call my patients for the following day, or I'll make business calls so that by the time I get home, everything should be wrapped up, so that when I walk in the door, I can flip that switch and be dad, husband, all the coach, whatever it may be that night. And I'm not saying that there's zero work interruptions, because there sometimes are, but I'm very well prepared because I've set my day up. So it's like just planning. It's just knowing your schedule, making sure that you've set time aside for this or that, and getting to know your body too. Like, I'm not afraid to admit that I need a nap every once in a while. So if I'm really tired, I'm exhausted, I'm a little crabby. And I have a life coach that I talk to on a weekly basis. Her name's Allison Parplasha, amazing individual. Yeah. She gave me the mnemonic HALT. So hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, right? So if you're feeling like out of your element, it's probably one of those things. You're either hungry, you're angry about something, you're either lonely, or you're tired. And you just need to fill your basic needs. So if you're hungry, eat. If you're angry, figure out why you're angry and try to like dispel that anger. If you're lonely, surround yourself with people that you love. And if you're tired, go take a freaking nap, right? So, and I used to be so harsh where I was just like, oh, if you have to take a nap, you're weak, right? But like, I'll go take a 20-minute power nap and I wake up and I'm refreshed and I'm way better of a husband and a father at that point.
That's too funny, especially with the nap. That's funny.
Yeah,
That's
15
great.
to 20 minutes is all you need.
That's it. That's so cool. Yeah, you've mentioned Allison to me before, and I've had a conversation with Allison before. And honestly, that's one of my things is that how do I balance, whether it's personal or business related or anything, or even just making a phone call to somebody that you need to make a phone call to, and just keeping up with those different things is something that I hope that I can, improve. I think I've gotten a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's definitely my weakest attribute I don't even want to say a business owner, just as a person in general. So that was cool. That helps out.
As Allison would point, it's called a growth edge, right? I don't like to call it a weakness because that makes it negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you call it a growth edge, it's like, it's a weakness, but it's like, it's something that you can actually get better at.
Right.
And you need to put time and energy into that. So for me, communication was one of my growth edges. Wellness was one of my growth edges over the past several years. And I've really put a lot of time and effort into making sure that I hopefully communicate better with people and take time to focus on me and what makes me better, which is like being just well, mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Sure. Okay.
Got one more, right?
I got two more.
Two more. Is that two? Is that?
That was the first question.
I felt like two.
I know. When was the moment that you realized you wanted to? So obviously, as a doctor, you have a couple options. You can work at a hospital. You can go into business for yourself.
Yeah.
When was the moment that you realized you wanted to go into business for yourself / start as busy as you are as a surgeon, start further business, when was that moment that you realized you wanted to do things on your own? You wanted to control everything for yourself?
Well, so, I mean, to go back a little bit, when I did my fellowship, I did my fellowship under Dr. Adolph Lombardi and Dr. Keith Barron, Columbus, Ohio, joint implant surgeons, two of the best mentors that I could have possibly had at that point in my career. Very, very private practice, very, very entrepreneurial, very, very business savvy. I didn't learn the business from them, but I was exposed to it. So when I came out, I was like, I kind of want to be like that. So I did it for a year, and then I realized economically, financially, all my colleagues are making way more money than me by becoming hospital employees. So I did it. I did it for 2 years. And I realized within like the first week, I was like, oh my God, I just sold my soul to the devil. It was horrible. I was not able to be who I wanted to be as a physician, who I wanted to be as a surgeon, who I wanted to be as a provider to my patients. I was pigeonholed. I was controlled. I lost my entrepreneurial spirit. So I had a 2-year contract. I'm extraordinarily loyal and stick out. Like if I have an obligation or a contract, I'm going to do it. So I stuck out my 2 years, but I did not spend one more day than my 2-year contract. And at the end of that, they tried to give me a subsequent pay increase. And I was like, yep, nope. And I actually took a huge pay decrease to go back into private practice because I knew that there was no dollar amount that could get put on what I was doing on a daily basis that could make it worth it to me to be able to take away that like ability to just be who I was, right? And not just being authentic and genuine, but being like private and being calling my own shots, right? And when I took that step back, the economics, the finances, they were like, this makes no sense whatsoever. But I felt the most amazing sense of freedom when I made that switch back. And since then, I've been employed again by a practice for a couple of years when I moved back to Pennsylvania because I had no other choice. Sure. I was not hospital employed. And then after that, I opened Whole Health on my own in 2018. And That was probably the best day of my life, was when I decided to go out on my own. Extraordinarily difficult, extraordinarily challenging to start a private practice less than 10 years into your career, right? And to like rally a staff around you to believe in what you're trying to create, not having an actual office to do it in, and just like trying to figure all those like challenges out. But man, it was so good. It was liberating to just know that like it was I could do it the way that I want to do it, which is my ultimate goal was to just provide the best care for my patients possible without having anybody or any institution trying to influence the decisions that I made to be able to do that.
Gotcha. Very cool. My last question is interesting because I don't have any kids of my own.
Who's my favorite?
What's that?
Is it your question? Who's my favorite? Good or
no.
Okay,
no.
Good. I can answer that easily. No, I'm kidding.
Obviously children are something that, you think about when you're younger, you think about in your 20s or what have you, but you're, at least for me, and this is not something that I've, come out in the open and said before, but like I'm in business for myself, for the most part, I'm in business for myself. And, there's always thoughts in my head, like, well, like you said before, I was off of work at 10 o'clock tonight. Right. So that's a challenge, in the future, how does that whole dynamic work? So my question is, what are your biggest challenges as a parent?
Oh, wow. Well, I think as a parent, for us, we have to look at like, we have 3 boys, right? If it was 1 kid, it's 1 challenge. If it's 2 kids, it's multiple challenges. If it's 3 kids, several challenges, right? And each of your kids are going to come out completely different from the one prior to it. They're not going to be the same. Their needs aren't going to be the same. The way that they interact is not going to be the same. And they're going to have issues with one another, whether it's jealousy, whether it's this, whether it's that. Some are going to be a little bit more naturally gifted athletically, academically, and they're all going to have their own unique challenges and situations. So for Karen and I think it's important to really identify like who your kid is, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what their personalities are, what their needs are is probably one of the most important, right? Because everybody needs something differently. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. For you as a human, for you as, you have a young relationship with Taylor, which she's a great girl. And when you have kids, it's called 5 Love Languages. Have you ever heard of it?
I have.
Have you read it?
I have not.
So I would read it.
Yeah.
Either the audiobook or the actual book. I've done it a couple times, and I'm not going to go into the specifics of it, but like it really does give you a different perspective as to like what is important to different people, right? So like my wife's love language is very different than mine, which is very different than Anthony's, very different than Santino's, and very different than Luca's. Honestly, I don't even know if any of us have the same. There's only 5 according to this book, right? But that being said, is like I don't think there's like just one, because there's certain things that are really important to me. Like I love, being able to like just words of affirmation is one of them. Physical touch is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Gift giving is one of them. But for each, like I like doing all those things, but there's certain love languages that speak individually to you. So for me, the biggest challenge of being a parent is like identifying what my kids' needs are, aka love language, and being able to provide that while not taking away from one of the others. So it's like time management is very important because some kids need a little bit more time and energy than others, and it just seems to happen that they all need you at the same time. So like dividing and conquering, that's why I would say like one kid's generally easier, but like when you've got 3 kids that are all acting up and this kid's going that way, that kid's going that way, and there's only 2 of us, we have to figure out a way to like keep everybody on the rails and make sure that like no one's getting too far off course, and that they all realize like tonight I had a great, before you got here, we had a great couple days in the hills of Hocking Hills of Ohio, but Anthony came down and like he's a big physical touch guy. So he laid on my lap. He's 12 years old, put his head down. We were watching TV, and I just was able to like touch his shoulder and let him know that like how much I love him, and like not just physically touching him, but like telling him, like, I tell these kids all the time how much I love them. And to me, that was something that I never got a lot of. Didn't mean that my parents didn't love me, but it was like, it was a different household, right? I had 3 older sisters, and my parents weren't lovey-dovey touching us and hugging us and saying, love you, Ryan. Like, my parents told me that just a handful of times. Doesn't mean that I never felt their love, but it just wasn't one of the things that was as maybe important or shared as much as what I try to share with our boys.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, but you will figure it out.
Yeah.
When that time is right.
I got you. Okay. Very good.
Ready
That's my 6.
ready to turn the tables?
Ready to roll. Let's go.
Okay. Jay, edit this out. We're going to take a quick break because he's out of his drink. So we can't go the rest of this without that. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Role reversal here. So business questions first. Okay. So you're a young guy, 28. You've done some things. You've coached, but this bomb shelter thing, where the hell did this come from? Like, who was the first person that gave you? I mean, I know that you coached at the collegiate level, but where did you first get this idea of like training not only just like collegiate baseball players, but younger athletes?
Yeah. So first and foremost, a lot of people don't know this, but the bomb shelter existed before I acquired the bomb shelter. But in terms of training kids, honestly, that was something that I'd taken on a small position at another facility locally. Started training some kids there. There was a handful of things that kind of went down, and it's just that's kind of a story for
Private conversation.
a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. But anyhow, in that time I realized that I really enjoy working with kids. I think it's really fun. I think it's cool to be able to give back to young kids. I think it's really neat. I think it's, especially in a city, where we don't have, the reality of it is we don't have a ton of, crazy baseball talent. That's just the reality of Erie. We're surrounded by cities that do. We're surrounded by cities that have a ton of indoor training facilities for baseball, softball. So again, at this point in time in my life, never did I think that I would have a facility of my own, but I did start to train some kids here and there. I did some training outdoors. I worked with some kids outdoors. Literally at a cage that I could find a cage at, whether it be Sam Jethro Park, whether it be Furman Park out in Harbor Creek, really wherever. I mean, I remember literally there were some kids who didn't have a ride. I would pick them up in my personal vehicle and bring them to the field. We would train, drive them home. It was never a business thing, anything along those lines. It was never like that. It was always just to kind of, help. And it still is to this day. But at the time, it was never like, I'm doing this so that I can start a baseball training business. In my eyes, I was going to be the next head baseball coach of Vanderbilt. You know what I mean? I always wanted to coach college baseball, right? It got to the point where I was doing 30 or 40 of these a week on top of coaching baseball at Mercer. So now you're spending X amount of hours a week at Mercer's and then basically working another full-time job. And I remember talking to, friends and family, and they're like, this is not a hobby. This is a business, right? So I started to rent time from the original bomb shelter.
So you mentioned that. You said
there was an
a
original bomb shelter. Yeah.
And it was called Bomb Shelter?
It was called Bomb Shelter Indoor Cages. Same logo, same name, same everything, right? And I rented some time from them. The previous owners came to me and they said, look, this has always just been a fun thing for our kids, whatever. We've never really run this as, it was a legitimate business to them, but there was never any marketing. There was never any advertising. There was never any social media, anything along those lines. Do you want to buy the business from us? And I'm thinking in my head, like, I have no idea. I'm a college baseball coach at this time. I don't know. thought it through. You know, Joe Spano, your previous guest, is one of my biggest professional and, you know, coaching mentors in my life. And I mean, I owe a lot of different things to Joe. He's like, you know, this is huge. You know, this would be awesome. It'd be a great opportunity. I don't know. There's only 2 or 3 cages. I envisioned something a lot bigger. You know, well, how about we, you know, just start small and see what happens, go from there. So finally, you know, we did acquire the bomb shelter for a, you know, a great price. I mean, everything just made a ton of sense, right? But yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. And then we really, I mean, that place got to the point where it was so full that within the first 7 months of acquiring the business in March of 2021, we then opened the second location that was quadruple the size of the first one.
So that's right after COVID, right? So that leads
Right
me into my
after COVID.
second question is you acquired in 2018?
In 2021.
Okay. You came to Erie in 2018.
Came to Erie in 2018. Yep. Started coaching baseball at Mercyhurst, and then, yeah.
And you were probably doing some private lessons here and there.
Just on the side. There was some alumni, you know, things like that.
And
yeah.
you started a business in the height of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Number one, what were you drinking or smoking? And number 2, was there, other than Joe, was there like a voice in the back of your head or a person, your parents, somebody that was just like, Anthony, you need to do this? Or what was like that driving force that made you jump out of that plane, spread your wings, and fly? Because trust me, I am the first person that will tell you there's nothing that's ever going to happen to you good unless you take a risk. And you took a major risk, but it paid off.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Joe was a huge factor in this entire thing. He still is to this day. He's a great mentor from a baseball standpoint of view. I mean, family man, just unbelievable person. But in terms of that, I mean, I never looked at it. It all happened so fast. I mean, you know, it was okay. We can acquire the bomb. I can acquire the bomb shelter. And then it just got to the point where we were so busy. I just remember I'm talking to my dad all the time, constantly talking to my dad. I'm like, Dad, this place is full. Like, what am I gonna do? You know, this place is full. And, you know, my dad being, you know, someone who, like I said, everybody in my family is like a 9 to 5, right? Which is, it's safe. It's, you know, you provide for your family, what have you. He's like, just take it easy, go slow, whatever, you know. And I'm thinking in my head, like, this is crazy. I think that I might be wasting an opportunity, right? So as I'm training Drew Baldwin's son, who, you know, that their family owns, you know, for anybody that's listening that, you know, knows Erie, they own a ton of.
Drew will be one of my guests here very soon.
They own a ton of commercial real estate in Erie and really all over the country. Drew's like, hey, I got this storage unit that's available. You know, just down the road from the original bomb shelter location. Are you interested in taking a peek at it? Drew happened to be in there at a time where literally every single square inch, I think, was full at the original bomb shelter. Probably broke every COVID rule. I mean, I don't know who's listening, but probably broke every COVID. Whatever.
OSHA, Department of Justice, whoever.
But it was jam packed, and Drew's in there, and he's like, hey, you need more space. What are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
Honestly, I owe a little bit to Drew too, a lot, you know? I have this storage unit, and I'm like, all right, let's take a look, right? So in Drew's eyes, this is a storage unit. To me, when I walked in there, I mean, this is 12 to 13,000 square feet of 30-foot ceilings, bare walls. Everything is completely raw. I'm like, Drew, this is not a storage. To me, when I envision a storage unit, I'm thinking 10 by 10. People store their grandmother's bed.
And there's like a garage door that goes up.
There's a garage door that goes up. And, you know, they're used to dealing with 100,000 square foot properties, you know, whatever. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, I don't know how we're going to pay for this, but this is amazing, you know?
Yeah.
And make a long story short, I mean, we worked out a deal that, you know, was able to allow us to, you know, get into a space that was much larger, you know, acquire many more team rentals, which are huge, you know, in this line of work, and just really be able to provide a space that ultimately is the only space in Erie that has just baseball and softball that doesn't have any other sports, you know. So we've been able to do that.
So you're kind of leading me down this path. My third question, and this is almost like a statement, but I kind of want to hear. I'll turn it into a question. I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that not only talk the talk but walk the walk, right? And I put myself in that company, like from my office.
Sure.
Have you seen it yet? I don't think you've been down
No,
there,
just
right?
pictures, but no.
Yeah, but we need to get you down there. Like, so it wasn't just like something that I had like an idea for. Like, yeah, I had an idea. I drew it out. I drew out all, not the structural engineering plans and things like that, but like I physically did a lot of the work myself. Like I was building walls and putting stuff up. Like you did the vast majority of, you put the turf down, you put the nets up, you did this, you did that. You were painting. That's blood, sweat, and tears. And like your success is because you invested in yourself and you put, I mean, you weren't just paying somebody to do this for you, sitting back casually. You were an invested owner and you went out and you said, this is me. This is Anthony Santoro. I am now Bomb Shelter. I'm putting my time. And you were there late doing this stuff, like
this
after
was never,
hours.
The option to hire a company to come in and fully outfit this new location, it wasn't there. That was never an option. I mean, I remember getting a quote from a company for well over $100,000, and I'm thinking in my head,
Were you laughing when
calling
they gave
my
you
dad,
that quote?
I'm like, Dad, these guys want that. He's like, get the hell, like that was never an option. So
Yeah.
the only option was to bring on who is now, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, the best pitching instructor in the city of Erie, Frank Frschetti.
Frankie Frschetti.
Unbelievable.
Shout out to you, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, you're coming on here too, by the way.
So Frank, I mean, I owe a lot, if not all of, the success at the bomb shelter to Frank Frschetti. I mean, everything in terms of building out this second location. Frank's gonna hate me for saying, Frank's afraid of heights. Okay, so one of the biggest things that we had to do was we had to, first of all, I bartered a scissor lift. These guys are telling me that I need a scissor lift. First of all, I'm going on my phone Googling what's a scissor lift. I have no idea. Okay, so we barter a scissor lift. I get a scissor lift. Okay, Frank and I are on a scissor lift and we're painting this completely raw space, right? And when I say raw, I'm talking literally cement block on the wall, concrete floors. Nothing is painted whatsoever. And that was the first thing we did. We painted. I mean, blue, white. We painted. It is what you say. I mean, and so I owe a ton to Frank for sure, and some of my family, and I'll never forget the first time my dad walked into that facility, and my dad he grabs his head and he's like, "What did you do? What did you get yourself into?" I'm like, "Dad, no, seriously, this is going to be great. This is going to be phenomenal. We're going to train every team. We're going to train every kid. We're going to train every travel organization, every high school." He's like, "No, why would you do this? Why would you do this to yourself?" Because as much as everybody in my family works hard, nobody was really risk takers. I mean, the biggest risk was my grandparents coming from Sicily to, Syracuse.
Pretty big risk.
That's a huge risk. But in terms of that, it was the risk was, okay, we're here and we're going to find a job and that's going to be great. We're going to make a few bucks. We're going to have a family. Everything's going to be amazing. But renting a space, building it out, that was never really, that was, if my grandmother were here today, she would probably still be mad at me, even though we're doing okay, so it's, honestly, I sit here, I still don't know how everything happened. That month, we had 1 month to build the facility out. We got 1 month, I believe it was 1 month free rent. Thanks, Drew. And we had
Drew.
Basically 30 days to build this place out. And we did it. We built it out in 30 days. The quote that we got was for well over $100,000. And they basically told us that it would take 6 months to build out. I literally told Frank, I said, "Look, we have 30 days. That's all we got. So let's do it." Then we did it. That was it.
Did you guys were you like, all right, day one, we got to put in at least 15 hours. Day two, we got to put in.
Well,
or
what
were you getting down to
was,
crunch time where you're like, we got 4 days left and we have like half the things to still do?
What happened was I'm funding this project with the money that we're making like that week. I mean, this was not we're gonna go to the bank and we're gonna get this.
Yeah, you self-funded it.
That's right. Everything was bootstrapped. So Frank and I we would train kids from whenever in the afternoon until 10 o'clock at night. And we would work on this we would drive over. It's only, less than a mile away. We would drive over and we would work on this new facility, probably after eating Taco Bell or something along those lines, until 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we would be leaving the facility at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and people would be going to the gym next door.
Wow.
So that was it.
You're pulling all-nighters.
We were pulling all-nighters. We would sleep for a few hours. We would go to Mercer's practice, and we would repeat that month of October. I'll never forget it. And to be honest with you, as corny as it may sound, I would never trade that for anything. It was unbelievable.
No, that's what you call sweat equity.
That's right.
Right? You literally
That's
put
right.
it in.
Yeah. There was no other option, I guess. There was no other option.
Proud of you.
I appreciate it.
That was
I appreciate it.
way more important and like something to be proud of than going and taking a loan out or going and having somebody else do it for you. Like you guys did it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there was no at the time. I mean, I was young. I didn't have the income. I was never going to be able to go to a bank and say, "Hey, we need this." So for any entrepreneur, any future entrepreneur, not that I'm in a position to give advice, but for any young, any young entrepreneur that's listening to this, don't be afraid to do things on your own. It's totally fine. You might fail. I went about that whole thing thinking like these cages might fall. The paint's probably going to chip. There's going to be holes in the nets. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. But there's not in here. We're still here.
Yeah.
We're still here. And I can guarantee you we're not going anywhere.
No. You're going somewhere. It's going up.
That's right.
Right.
That's it.
As you continue to expand. So I think it was my third business question, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was your third.
So we're going to go personal now.
Let's do it.
So, I mean, you spoke of your family.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, your family has a huge influence on you from your grandparents to your parents. But is there, and it doesn't have to be a family person, but like, is there one person that you can sit back at the end of the day and be like, this is the individual that like I can attribute, and maybe it's not one, maybe it's a couple, I can attribute my success to, and just like, who drives you on a day-to-day basis to be the man that you are?
Yeah, I mean that's challenging, right? Because you have, my grandparents, you have pretty much everybody in my family, but really, I mean, honestly, my dad. I mean, my dad has been somebody that I've looked up to my entire life. I remember growing up.
What's his name, by the way?
My dad's name is Frank.
Okay.
But yeah, my dad. I mean, I've always looked at my dad like this, strong, always going to be around, always going to be this, always going to be that. I mean, just always, you call your dad, and I think a lot of people probably feel this way. You call your dad as like someone who you think is always going to have the answer. Like, Dad, this happened. What do I do? And you just think he always has the answer. But yeah, I mean, I would have to say my dad. I mean,
I hate to interrupt. He was not a principal at Maplewood Elementary School back in the 1980s and 90s, was he?
No.
Because Frank Santoro was the scariest individual that I've ever met in my entire life. I didn't know your dad's name until you just said it. And oh my gosh, all of you people that went to Maplewood know who I'm talking about. Great guy, but man, that guy was intense. And when Mr. Santoro, our principal, would speak, we would listen. And if you ever had to go to the principal's office for anything, it was like, holy crap, like this is not going to be a good day.
Everybody
he rolled with an iron fist.
I'm the only Santoro in my family. Well, not the only. My brother's here now, but to live in Erie, Pennsylvania. I think the only one to leave New York, actually. So, I mean, but yeah, there's so many people in my family that have done so many amazing things, and where they've come from and things of that nature. I mean, my grandmother, really just so many people that have kind of just blended me into the person that I am. But my dad he's always been there from a baseball standpoint. He's helped me from a business standpoint. But yeah, I would say that he's definitely the guy that I've always looked up to. He's the guy that I've always been afraid to say, Dad, I failed doing this, or Dad, you know what I mean? You're always looking for that sense of approval from, your dad, or,
I
you know
get
what
it.
I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Question 2.
Mm-hmm.
Got to kind of erase bomb shelter, erase baseball coaching out of your repertoire. What would be your dream job? You got to subtract baseball completely out of it. What could you see yourself doing if you weren't the bomb shelter entrepreneur that you are and baseball guy that you are in the community?
Something along the lines of sales. I like to sell. I like to negotiate. Definitely still something entrepreneurial. Honestly, something that has always interested me, and some people listening to this probably know this, because I've actually, and this is the first time I'm admitting this to the public, I've actually done some, not done some, but I've had some different interviews and some different things that have gone on that, in my head, I'm like definitely spreading myself a lot more thin than I already am. But I love the idea of real estate. I think that's like one of the most entrepreneurial things that you can do. And it's just, I love the risk, but I know it's crazy, but I love the risk. I love the negotiation piece of it. I love the selling piece of it.
Are you talking commercial real estate?
I love commercial real estate. I think residential real estate it's diluted. I think that, I feel like I know so many people that, I'm a real estate agent. I've sold a house or, what have you, but I love the idea of commercial real estate. I love the idea of big projects, things of that nature. And I think that's something that is in the future for me too. I love the bomb shelter will always be here as long as I can control it. But I do think that something along the lines of real estate is definitely in my future as well.
Okay, so now I'm going to go back to baseball.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I tried to get away from it for one question, but
That's tough.
Give me your all-time, and I did the same question for Joe, right, Spano, and I've had this question asked to me for kind of my basketball passion, but for you, who was your greatest personal kind of like idol growing up, baseball-wise? If you could give me one player, and then also, you're from Syracuse, give me your ultimate, like the best Major League Baseball team of all time. Year.
Okay.
Team and year. Is there a guy that you were just like, this is the guy? Like for me, it was Michael Jordan. It was easy.
Yeah, for me it was Derek Jeter.
The captain.
I mean, really, just you talk about somebody that did everything right on the field. And people argue this. Derek Jeter wasn't a good hitter. He wasn't a good defender. I mean, people say that all the time about a young kid in the facility today at the bomb shelter said that Derek Jeter wasn't a good hitter. Derek Jeter was a career .310 hitter. He was a good hitter. He may have not been flashy.
Did you kick him out of the bomb shelter forever?
I should have. He should have been banned forever. Yeah, Derek Jeter. I mean, you just talk about. I was raised, to be able to, I remember going to tryouts growing up, and my dad would say, "Look, regardless of how this goes, the guy that's in front of you, just smack him on the ass, like, good job, good luck, always treat the game with respect, right?" This is coming from a guy that never played baseball before. This was just how we were raised. And Derek Jeter was that guy. I mean, there was never anything he did wrong off the field.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was pretty squeaky clean on and off the field.
That's what I mean. I mean, he was just an unbelievable guy. And it seems like everybody respected him. Everybody appreciated being on the field with him. Everybody was excited. All the minor leaguers that would come up there were so excited to meet him. Anybody that I know that was drafted or played in professional baseball always has the experience of like, or the story that when I met Jeter, he did this, or when I met Jeter, he did that. I mean, and I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about this guy. So
other than that kid at the bomb shelter.
Other than that kid about the bomb shelter who knows nothing. I mean, he's a class act, phenomenal player, played for the Yankees, clean cut guys. I mean, I love that about the Yankees and, Jeter.
Always had a good haircut, right?
That's it.
He's keeping it tight. And
I loved it. I mean, the worst thing that anybody ever had to say about Derek Jeter was that I think he was in trouble maybe with a couple different women or something along those lines. I mean, if that's the worst thing that anybody can come up with about your career, I think you're okay.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
quite honestly, he has a beautiful wife now. I
He
think he's
does.
got
Beautiful
3
family.
kids.
Yeah, it's
right?
amazing. He's amazing. Yeah. Best team?
It's gonna be a Yankees team.
It's gonna be a Yankees team. I mean, honestly, that's a challenge because the Yankees were so good when they had the core four. I mean, you had Mariano Rivera, Jorge Posada, Derek Jeter, Andy Pettitte. I mean, those guys, that group of guys. I mean, that's just you talk about just 4 guys. Again, class acts. I mean, if you can win, be classy. Everybody loves
You did not mention A-Rod in there.
No, you know what though? I almost wore the Jordan Georgetown, and the reason I bring that up is I saw the shoes on Alex. I don't mind Alex Rodriguez, right? I don't mind Alex Rodriguez. I bought the shoe. Frank, who I
The
mentioned
Jordan
before.
3s? Georgetowns?
Yeah,
I got those sitting over in the
I know.
shop over there.
So
yeah.
I almost wore them.
I'm glad you wore the cements.
I know, and but I saw A-Rod wearing them, and during the World Series, and he was talking on Fox News, and that was the only reason I bought those shoes. I'm like, those look sweet on A-Rod. It's pretty cool. But honestly, A-Rod was, to me, I look at A-Rod as a guy that got traded to the Yankees, had a good career with the Yankees, whatever. But I look at Derek Jeter.
He was a
Posada.
lifelonger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, he played a great career with the Yankees, but for some reason, in my head, I look at the Yankees. I've always remembered the Yankees as Jeter, Jorge Posada, Andy Pettitte, and Mariano Rivera. And I remember growing up, every single night, during the baseball season.
Paul O'Neill was part of that team too.
Paul
right?
O'Neill. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of these guys, unbelievable. I remember watching every Yankees game every night with my dad on the recliner. I would sit on his lap. We would watch the game. My mom would make me go to bed.
Those are good memories.
Unbelievable. My mom would make me go to bed every single morning on a piece of printer paper. My dad would basically create like a scoreboard, right? And he would write the score to the Yankees. I could have probably turned the TV on, whatever. Every morning, I will never forget going downstairs and looking forward to seeing this piece of printer paper, seeing the Yankee. He would just write the score. He'd write the score to the game.
Would you fall asleep on his lap?
Fall asleep? My mom would make me go to bed. My mom made me go to bed when Barry Bonds broke the home run record.
Oh
She's the
my
worst.
gosh.
Mom, you're the worst. That's horrible. I had to listen on the radio. I had this little radio, this little nightstand radio. I had to listen to Barry Bonds break the home run record. Regardless of what anybody thinks about Barry Bonds, he's still, whatever.
He still hit those home runs.
It is what it
Right.
is. But I listened to that on the radio. But this is totally off the question, but one of my favorite childhood memories is, waking up in the morning, looking at that piece of paper, seeing the Yankees score. Just pretty cool. One of those things I always remember.
So I've kind of run out of my questions for you, but I'm going to ask you one more.
Do it.
Right? I'm gonna do like a bonus question, right? Because you mentioned one player there, that 4 from the Yankees, because you were a catcher.
I was
Right?
a catcher.
And my boys, they all play multiple sports. They play baseball, they play basketball, they play flag football, and this and that. And a couple of them have been like, "Yeah, I want to catch." I'm like, "There's no glory in catching," and this and that. And I'm just like, "But I'm hearing you." And then my buddy Travis, who was guest number 2 on the podcast, caught for Gannon and this and that. And Nico Spano, of all people, right, Joe's son,
Yeah.
he went out to Cedar Point with us this past weekend. I was just like, "Nico, you play shortstop, you play this, you play this. What's your favorite position?" He goes, "It's catcher." I'm like, "Why?" And he's just like, "It is because I feel like I'm in control of the situation." And I'm starting to learn more about baseball because I'm not a baseball guy,
Sure.
but I'm gonna say I'm like kind of like a baseball nerd now. Like I love the
Yeah.
strategy behind it. There's so much, and I am a pupil. I don't know that much, but I'm hoping over the years that I can learn more and more about the strategy and this and that. But he like opened my eyes. He's like, I kind of can call the pitches. I can call the situations. The coaches relaying all the plays to me, and then I'm relaying the. It's just like nothing that I ever knew about baseball before. So, at what point in your life were you like, "All right, I want to be a catcher," and why?
This is super easy. never did I want to be a catcher. I mean, I never disliked the position, but I was in high school and they said, you can play varsity if you learn how to catch.
So it was like playing time.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, you do what you're told, right? I mean, again, it goes back to the way that you were brought up. And a lot of this, I feel like, for some young kids, if there's one big piece of advice that I can give, it's just, I don't want to say do what you're told, but
Find your
if
role.
you're given an opportunity, just accept it and just embrace it and whatever. I mean, you can play. I'll never forget. You can play varsity if you learn how to catch. It's pretty simple. You know what I mean? So it's
What
either
was your other option?
play JV.
Yeah.
And that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
So I learned how to catch. I mean, there's a guy by the name of Tim Alexander. He's now the full-time area scout for our area, actually in Pennsylvania for the New York Yankees. At the time, he was doing some catching instruction in Syracuse. I don't know exactly how we found him, but he trained. I mean, he had this class, right? This class was this was like the ultimate gut check class, right? And it was like an 8-week long class. I still want to do this with the bomb shelter. Haven't done it yet, but there's so many things that I want to do that we haven't done yet. But he would have this class. It would go 8-12 weeks. I don't know exactly how long. And there would be a fitness portion of this class, and there would be a catching portion of this class. Immediately, I struggled with the fitness. Now, mind you, like I said, I grew up in the inner city where it's not like we went without or anything. I don't want to portray it as that. It's just I didn't know about like the extra baseball training or all these other things. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I played a little. I didn't play travel ball until I was later years in high school. So there was a fitness portion. I remember having to learn how to jump rope. Had no idea how to jump rope. Made that a priority immediately because it was crazy embarrassing the first session. Had no idea how to block a baseball, as opposed to trying to catch everything. There was just so many different things that this guy he taught me. Tim Alexander, I mean, he actually did a camp for me at the bomb shelter a few months back. And so that was a really cool full circle moment in my life. So, yeah, I mean, it was either
So opportunity
I fell in love with
knocked.
the position. That's it. Yeah, but then ultimately I did fall in love with the position. I don't know that I fell in love with it because I got a chance to play varsity, or I fell in love with it because the amount of work that I put into it, allowed me to fall in love with the position. But or whether it was Tim. I mean, it was neat. I mean, I honestly, looking back at it, I don't know that I would have played college baseball at the level that I played at if I didn't become a catcher. Because in baseball, catching gives you a little bit of leeway for hitting, and it just gives you, if you can defend, if you can catch, you're wanted in a lot of places. So, a little bit of I wanted to catch, a little bit of I was forced to catch, a little bit of my dad probably smacked me in the back of the head and said, "You're gonna play varsity, so you're gonna learn how to catch." A combination of the three, but yeah,
All worked out, right?
it all worked out. Here we are. Yeah.
So you ready for the next baseball analogy, which is, one of my favorite kind of sections of this podcast, which is the Sawbones 7th inning shoe stretch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know me, I'm a shoe guy.
Mm-hmm.
I know you like your shoes too.
Yeah.
So let's hear what you're wearing. I know what you're wearing. I mean, I see them, I have them, but let's hear what you're wearing, why you like them, and then I'll do the same.
Yeah. So honestly, I am a shoe guy, but I have always been. I remember growing up, it was like, okay, you got your school shoes, you got your play shoes, right? And I had never been a really big, shoe guy. I've always had a ton of shoes, right? I've always had a ton of, I guess now I would call them play shoes, shoes that I train in. I buy a ton of running shoes, On Clouds and, Brooks and, all at Hoka's and all these different running shoes and things that I like to train kids in. But I guess it wasn't really until I met Frank. Frank's really into Jordans, and I like the idea of Jordans. I have these. Honestly, they're Jordan cement. I don't even know.
Jordan 11 cement.
Jordan 11 cement. Yeah.
They got the patent leather down there.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just think they're sweet. They're sharp. They're clean. Yeah. But it wasn't really until I met a handful of people in my life that are like, you can still wear Jordans and like dress them up. Like Jordans aren't just a basketball shoe. I guess I always
Oh,
had that in my
yeah.
head. You know, I'm looking at guys that are wearing like a suit with Jordans, you know? Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I wear sport coats, suits,
that's it.
scrubs. You can wear it with anything.
So honestly, these Jordans are, I would say, the first pair of Jordans that I bought in like my professional life. And so yeah, I mean,
They're a sharp shoe for
they
sure.
are, yeah, they are. But no, I have got a newfound love of the Jordan brand. Like I said, I have a ton of running shoes and things of that nature. But you know, in terms of going out and doing things socially, the last year or so has been really the first time in my life where I've like
What's Taylor think of your Jordans? Does she like them? Because I
Taylor
can see
likes
her
Jor-
like liking 'em.
Taylor has probably 40 pairs of Jordans. Taylor
I
loves
did not
Jordans.
know that. I knew
Yeah.
that she liked Jordans, but I didn't know that she had that many
Taylor
pairs.
will entertain you on a podcast as well if you ever need a guest. But Taylor's a
I'm a little embarrassed because she's like rivaling my Jordan collection.
yeah. Taylor's crazy. I mean, she has an unbelievable amount of Jordans. So
Maybe what would
especially
be cool is if we did an episode. She brought all her Jordans and I had all my Jordans, and we just sat in my shoe room and we just talked about Jordans the entire time.
Taylor loves them. I mean, and if you meet Taylor now, you would never. She's a cosmetologist. You would
yeah,
never know
when-
that, right?
I mean, she's got like pizzazz, right?
Yeah,
and she's like,
super fun,
but I would not peg her as somebody that has 40 pairs of Jordans.
unbelievable. Neither would I, and I didn't believe her until she's like opening these boxes. I mean, everything's in good shape still, and I don't know, doesn't wear them anymore, whatever. But yeah, crazy amount of Jordans.
She needs to start breaking them out.
I know.
So, before this episode, my boys love Jordans, especially, all of them do, but Luca is a huge shoe fanatic. And I came out and I had this shirt on and he's like, I said, Luca, I need you to help me with selecting my shoes for tonight. And he goes, got it. He's like, no problem. He's like, I'm going to go down. And he had a pair of Jordan shorts on that were essentially my hat and my shirt. They had the kind of turquoise Jordan symbol, but they had some navy blue in it. And he goes, I know the pair. And he came downstairs and he gave me 3 options. He goes, you can do those, or you can do those. And he pointed to the ice blues. So these are Jordan 1 lows, ice blues, which, I mean, this back color here is just, it's just hot, as is the sole. I mean, it just matches. And, again, I'm just a huge Jordan 1 fan. They're super comfy. The cool thing is they generally come with a couple different color laces. So he loves lacing my shoes up. So Luca, maybe we'll swap these out for the ice blue laces here later. But, this is that point where we start to transition into the next part, which is the Sawbones Challenge, which, again, people at home, I've always filmed these sessions at like 6 p.m., maybe a little bit earlier. It's midnight.
Gotta be.
So, yeah, this is way past my bedtime. So we're not going to be able to go outside, but we are going to like make this still happen. So you've seen the Sawbones Challenge before, right?
Basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a baseball guy,
Yeah.
but we're gonna switch it up a little bit tonight. I'm gonna give you the option of 2 different things, right? 3 different things. I'll give you 3 different options. Okay. So we've got the basement out here. It's pretty much like a kid's playground in terms of like basketball stuff. We've got the Papa Shot over there, which is if you want to do that, it's kind of boring. That's fine. We've got the breakaway rim, which we could do either horse or peg, or we could do like a dunk competition. So I'm going to let you decide what you want to do, but I just encourage you guys, stick around. Sawbones Challenge is coming up. It's going to be fun. I don't know. I've grown to appreciate my guests over the past several months with these challenges, and I've been surprised by some of them. Matt Zim, when you beat me outside, you were banking your shots in from 20 feet away, but I'm a little afraid of this guy. Anthony Santoro's got like a little bit of that competitive edge that I really like because it brings the best out of me. But like, I feel like this could go bad if I don't pull my game together. So stick around. We're gonna do the Sawbones Challenge next. See you in a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
So here is the bomb shelter main guy, owner, operator, Anthony. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So first time, not going outside, doing the 3-point competition. You picked, you want to do horse or pig?
Pig. Pig is good.
Pig.
Pig is good.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Your house, your rules. You go first. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do some turnaround stuff, right? First one, I'm gonna turn the hat on. So I'm going to game mode, right? But I'm gonna do a little bit of Kobe, a little bit of Jordan. So the hard part that people can't really see out there is that, like, you're a little bit of, I'm not trying to make excuses, but you have a little bit of an advantage here. The ceiling's a little low, so I have to kind of like shoot a little bit of a flat shot. So
I don't have to repeat that shot.
no,
Okay.
nope, you're good.
We'll go seated from right here.
Oh wow,
We'll go seated, left-handed.
he is really.
Oh.
All right, so I'm gonna do. I don't know if the camera's gonna pick this one up. This is my Kareem. There's a doorway over here into the dining room area. We're gonna take one dribble, fake to the right, come around the hook. I'll make that before the end of the night. So.
Here they go. We're gonna go standard free throw from the freshly painted post.
We're gonna do a little fadeaway over here. I like to bring it, go to the right, then bring it left, and bingo. Off the rafters, you didn't see that? And if you want to edit any of these bad misses out, you can do that.
We probably should. We're gonna go back to the free throw. Go one-handed free throw with the mini ball. And we're gonna hit it.
Oh boy. There we go.
Almost. Here we go. He is on the line.
One hand, bingo. Bingo.
Bounce free throw. We're gonna bounce the ball. Bounce free throw. Let's see. Not even close.
All right.
I don't know.
We're
Jay, I
getting,
don't
we're
know
getting a
who
little,
you are, but
we're
edit
getting a
this
little
out.
tricky here. So I'm gonna go bounce between the legs, off the board, dunk.
Unbelievable. That's been done before in this basement.
Oh, the baseball guy got it. All right, we're gonna do a little hook action here again. You gotta come this way, fake, come up, over, bingo.
Unbelievable.
That's called Kareem skyhook, nothing but net. There you go, fake. You got it. Oh! Dang, this baseball guy's got something going on here. All right, we're going back Kobe. This time we're fading the opposite way. Fading right, fake left, go right. Oh, there it is. Dang.
Like that.
Dang.
Is that what he wanted me to do?
Yeah. I'm just gonna do another fadeaway. I mean, I'm gonna, same thing. I'm gonna fake right, come back, look at the camera, fade. Bingo.
God.
You're missing that one. You're missing that one. Because I looked at the
Fake
camera.
right, camera. Oh, that's a peek.
We gotta peek.
I don't even think I did it the right
We
way.
gotta peek, okay? Peek. That's a peek. So, it's gotta be precise. Are you ready? Oh! Couldn't quite grab it. We hit the camera.
I'll still try it though.
Oh, he's going for it.
This is great setting.
See me over there? I'm gonna do a fadeaway corner shot. Okay? I call this my Patrick Ewing shot, but going left-handed, coming over to the goal sign, coming over, bingo. Oh, that's gonna happen.
Going alley-oop, left hand toss off the top of the wood, right hand down.
Yeah.
I feel like I was off the ground by a notebook. That was pretty much it.
I got a letter, folks. I got a letter.
That's a
PP. He's going to the dunk contest here.
Oh!
He likes it.
I don't know if I even want to see that on video though.
No. Do I have to go that direction? I got
You do whatever you want.
I'm going the other way. Left hand.
Oh!
Yeah. Maybe off the ground for about a half a second. This is turning into a dunk competition.
Terrible.
Between the legs, off the back wall, catch it, and little windmill, little tomahawk. If you don't, go for the dunk.
I wish that was on camera.
What you don't realize is, number one, I didn't attempt the dunk, so I get a second shot. Number two, the wine was so close to getting knocked off. It wasn't quite the tomahawk that I wanted, but it was still
Unbelievable.
this.
Oh, I got PI.
You don't have to go up this high, but what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to come under and just do a layup. Just a little Dr. J, okay? So coming from in here, is it PI? To P. I got a P.
You have PI.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Unbelievable.
Did it go in?
Sure did.
Honestly, couldn't see it. Oh!
That's game.
That was close.
I know. Yours went right in. How?
Folks,
His house, his rules, his game.
but
Winner.
go to the bomb shelter. That's where you learn how to hit, how to
Yeah.
catch, how to field,
Not this.
all that.
Yeah.
Did it go in?
Yeah. It went in.
Take care. Hey, everybody. Welcome back from the Sawbones Challenge basement version. Again, Anthony, just want to thank you for taking the time tonight to come on, keep me from my normal routine of going to bed at 8:30. It's been a lot of fun. I always enjoy hanging out with you. It's always fun and getting to know more about who you are, your story. And again, I'm not just saying this because you're sitting here, but I've always had a lot of respect for you personally and professionally. You're a risk taker. I love that. And you're tremendously successful. And you will continue to be. I mean, as long as you want to continue to be that entrepreneur that you are, which I think will be probably the rest of your life.
Yeah, likewise. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me. I do. I mean, I know that there's so many people that you could have on this and, so many people that and, things of that nature. So I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad we could work this out.
Yeah,
So
no
salute.
doubt.
So in kind of closing, I always ask my guests, like, if you could envision yourself, I know you're young, but 5-10 years down the road, where do you see yourself, both personally and professionally?
Personally is easy. Honestly, I just hope that in 5 or 10 years, I hope that I have created a positive impact on the baseball community in Erie. I hope that people can say that the Bomb Shelter, Anthony, Frank Fraschetti, Nick Santoro, Joseph, I mean, anybody that's involved with myself or my organization, I hope that we can say that we've created a positive impact. I think that, by putting a huge accomplishment ahead of that, a huge personal accomplishment in terms of having a bigger building or making X amount of dollars or anything along those lines, putting that ahead of helping kids would just be crazy selfish. I just think that what we've started is something that has never been done here. And I just hope that continues to grow. So from a personal standpoint, I hope that from 5 to 10 years from now, we have raised the level of competition of baseball and softball. We have a huge softball component at the Bomb Shelter as well. Honestly, that's all I can hope for. That's all I can hope for from a personal standpoint.
Family, kids. I mean, because I look at you as being like,
yeah,
I kind of want you to be my dad. I mean, you're almost 20 years younger than me, but like,
from a personal standpoint and a family standpoint, in terms of that, I do hope that I have kids of my own. I hope that I'm married. I have a beautiful girlfriend, Taylor, right now. I hope that things continue to work out the way that they are right now. And then I hope that, my kids just honestly, I would be okay if my kids didn't play baseball. I'd be totally fine. I just want my kids to be able to grow up the way that I was brought up. I want my kids to be able to, have a, I think, again, I don't have kids, but I think that every parent's goal is to, is for their kids to be further successful than they are, right? I mean, so I hope that I have kids that can just be productive members of society and, help people the way that we've helped people and, just be good people, be door holders, right? Be
Oh,
good people.
amen to
You know what I
that.
mean? Just be someone that, that is willing to lend a hand to another person, whether it's, whether they're paying you for the service or whether they're not paying you for the service or what have you. It really doesn't matter. Just be one of the best quotes I've ever heard was just be a door holder. That just means so much more than holding a door. Be the person that's willing to look behind you when, even though you don't know that there's anybody behind you, turn your head. Don't be lazy. Turn your head and look around and see what's going on. And, you know, I don't know. I just hope that I hope that if I do have kids, if I'm fortunate enough to have kids, that they're healthy and that they take care of people the way that we strive to take care of people every day. That's all.
Beautifully said. Your door holder story means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I was literally talking to my buddy Travis Bazell today about this as I was driving back from Hocking Hills, Ohio. I was just north of, I don't know exactly where I was. I was just north of Polaris, north of Columbus, and we were heading there. And Anthony and Luca, Anthony was in the front seat, Luca was in the back. Santino came back with Karen the day before. And we were just talking about like society and how critically important it is to like teach the future generations the importance of like giving back and being respectful and this and that. And just like my thing for my boys is like leaving the world in a better place than it is when you found it, right?
No
If
doubt.
you're in the bathroom, there's a piece of paper towel on the floor, like pick it up, throw it away. If there's a mess here or this or that, but like holding the doors for people. And yeah, it's great if you get that thank you, which we all want. But if you don't get it, you at least did the right thing. And today, right after that conversation, I was very proud to say that we stopped. We had to get gas. We went to a Sheetz gas station, and Anthony literally went up to the door and he opened it up and held it for me and Luca. I was like, thank you, Anthony. He's like, you're very welcome, Dad. Then he ran inside, opened up the next door, and he held it not only for me and Luca, but the next guy that was walking in, who did say thank you to him. And Anthony was like, you're very welcome. So it was just like, again, love the beautiful lessons. You have a great head on your shoulders. You're going to be tremendously successful. I like to give plugs to all local businesses like Bomb Shelter. How do people get a hold of you?
So we are very active on social media. But honestly, word of mouth has been, I guess, like any business, word of mouth has been huge for us. I do my best to, sponsor and take care of any sponsorship letter that comes across our, table. We're just talking about that with a parent tonight. If there's anybody out there that is looking for a sponsor or whole sponsorship or anything along those lines, we do our best to take care of everybody in that way.
What's your phone number? What's your website?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as Bomb Shelter Indoor Cages. Website is bombsheltercages.com. Phone number is 315-317-0129. And we are honestly we have a very open door policy. You're going to call that number. You're going to get a hold of myself, Frank Fraschetti, Nick Santoro. You're going to come in and you are going to meet some of the most open-armed people you will ever meet in your entire life. You're going to get a quick tour. You're going to get probably going to mess with your kids, probably going to joke with your kids. And we're just going to have a ton of fun. I mean, honestly, majority of the kids that come in to see us are between the ages of 8 and 12. And between the ages of 8 and 12, how much better are you really going to get a kid? Depends on the kid. But the experience that you're going to give that kid. I mean, I've realized that between the ages of 10 to 12 are when kids decide whether or not they want to play baseball and softball. Um, so I tell my guys, my trainers, my softball girls, I don't want to be the deciding factor as to whether or not they don't want to play baseball or softball. I want to be the deciding factor as to whether they want to continue to play baseball or softball. Yeah, I don't want to be the bad experience. I want to be the good experience, you know? And if down the road they realize they don't want to play baseball or softball, then it is what it is. We'll shake hands. We'll, bygones will be bygones, and we'll move on. And they'll play another sport, or they'll do theater, or they'll do, whatever they want to do. But I'd like to think that we have an open door policy. The open door policy was, kind of introduced to me by Joe Spano. That's a policy that we have at Mercier's with Mercier's baseball, with all of our athletes, all of our players, all of our recruits. We don't shut anybody out, and we'll train anybody. We'll train, everybody. And whether you're good, you're bad, you're tall, you're short, you're skinny, it doesn't matter. We're going to train everybody. We're going to work with everybody, and we're going to give everybody, the most equal opportunity that we can. So we encourage everybody to come see us. Even if you just want to come in and take a peek, it is you've been there. It's a friendly environment. We have a ton of fun, a lot of jokes, bust a ton of chops, and just have fun. So that's it.
Guys, girls, you heard it here. So proud of you, Anthony.
I appreciate it.
Keep up the great work.
I appreciate it, man.
Before we close out, a couple things. Make sure that you tune in. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you submit questions. Make sure that you submit like, hey, I like this, I don't like that. Any requests that you have. And we always love our little video guests that come in and ask questions. So one that we have, Sydney, we're going to play the video here in a little bit, but her question to me was regarding, PAs, because she has a interest in going to physician assistant school. So here's her question, and then I will answer it right after we play it.
Hi, Dr. Molly. I'm Sydney Rhodes, and I am going into my senior year of high school and thinking about going to college to be a physician's assistant. And I was wondering what kind of qualities you look for in your physician's assistants that you hire.
So, Sydney, to answer your question, what are the qualities that I look into when I'm looking to hire a physician assistant, or I'm just going to put a broader term on it, mid-level provider? So the biggest things for me are the same as what I would look for with any employee that I have. Number one is loyalty. Is making sure that our values, our goals are all aligned. So making sure that if I scratch your back, you're going to scratch my back. I'm going to take care of you. You're going to take care of me. We're on the same team. That's got to be first and foremost to me. Number two is making sure that you are dedicated to the process and the right reason that you're doing this. And to me, it's the patient, right? So we want to always provide the best quality care that we can to our patients, to our families of our patients. And I truly believe that we do that on a regular basis. And when you do that, the results will speak for themselves, whether it's, more patients that you get or just the trust within the community that you get from providing that amazing quality of care. Other things that I always look for is just like being happy with what you do, right? Life is short. I've met a lot of people that go to work, they're upset, they're short, they're this or that. They don't enjoy being there. To me, if you don't enjoy being where you're at, doing what you're doing for a career, you should probably look for a new career. So I truly believe that for myself, for all of my employees, for all my staff. But I hope that helped to answer your questions. I'm super excited that you are choosing to go into the field of medicine and in particular PA studies. And again, applaud you with that and best of luck moving forward. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week. Have a great day.
So like you said, I grew up in Erie. I played a lot of soccer when I grew up, and I actually injured myself playing soccer, and that spurred my interest in the foot and the anatomy of the foot and stuff like that. I actually had a sustentaculum tali fracture.
The only thing I ever gamble on is like myself. Yeah. So like my best investment was just going all in on me and knowing that like failure wasn't an option. I was going to meet a lot of roadblocks. I was going to meet a lot of people trying to take me down. And it happens daily, right? It continues. But like to me, it was just like, I know that I'm just not going to give up.
As you feel it here in Cinque Terre, first you feel it in your legs, then you feel it in your belly, then you feel it in your head. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you hike, you eat, and then you drink. I was like, all right. So it was, I remember that like it was yesterday, talking with this guy and just like your buddies basically within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're so welcoming, happy to have you. But the reason I wore these is these are actually the shoes I wore to Augusta. So when we went last year, I wore these shoes, and so they bring back like a good. I wore them. Actually, I wore them in Italy too. But I mean, I was thinking
a little
Augusta.
nostalgia.
Yeah. So that's kind of being a podiatrist. You'd think I'd be a shoe guy. I'm not. Like I have a bunch of different shoes, but they're all just like Asics, New Balance.
So you're not.
Like I'm like, okay, I'll pull these out and wear them. I just pop them on.
I have loved some fishing in the outdoors where I'm free. It's where I spent my time before I hurt my hip and my knee. When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I says, they saw bones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. I wanna know, Doc, why do you think I got some pain in my joints from years of playing hard in this life that's too short? When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I says, they saw bones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. Yeah. Tell me all about it, Doc.